I want to tell you that I believe with a full and open heart that God heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. These are the words from Psalm 147. And the psalm continues, and it says, God gives courage to the lowly and brings hope to those bereft. May God always be with us. Amen. God is healer of the brokenhearted and binder of their wounds. I feel like that's where we are. That for so many of us, we feel like we are just plain old brokenhearted, and that we are in need of care and love and a little compassion. Did you notice from the psalm how God actually heals the brokenhearted? The text says, God is the one who binds up their wounds. The wounds don't go away by themselves like magic, but they're cared for. They're bandaged, and they can heal. My personal theology, my thoughts of God in the world is kind of a roll up your sleeves kind of theology. It's a get to work kind of theology. We can talk about the thinkers, the philosophers, but I think there's something very basic. I believe so deeply that we are really God's partners in continuing the work of creation. So, if and when we fully embrace our roles in the world, we are not only God's partners, but then we become God's messengers. We act godly as God's partners. So we are the ones who actually provide that care. We are the ones who hear God's voice and act. And we act as the extension of God's outstretched arm. We are the Moses and Miriam providing care, comfort, and strength, nourishment to other people. Now, I do really believe that God can heal, but I don't believe that's the same as God providing the cure. I wish I did. I really don't, actually. I'm okay with healing, with finding wholeness. Some of us might remember a prayerful poem from a previous prayer book in the Reform movement. The prayer was written by Rabbi Ferdinand Isserman. It goes, prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer might not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city, but prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. These last 2 years, I've seen a lot of people with broken hearts. I want you to know that I'm doing my best to see you wherever you are. Tonight, our prayers can help us rebuild our lives, our hopes, our communities, and our world. But can we really acknowledge out loud this brokenheartedness? I think we need to say it out loud and to say it's okay. In our small little congregation, we have gone for months and months when we couldn't bury our loved ones in faraway states because traveling during COVID was just dangerous. Those we were able to care for, we had to Zoom with our family and have our friends join us. Students who became B'nai Mitzvah did so online, and their parents and family would need to let go of what they might have otherwise imagined. we were deprived of being embraced by dear friends and loved ones. We dealt with our financial security at risk. We weren't sure when we would be returning to normalcy. We were scared. And then we saw some hope, and then we got scared all over again. How many have I talked to who shared their wonder about going to a grocery store and it felt like they were going into battle, going into a war zone? I felt that way. I felt that way when the person behind me in line sneezed, and I felt it was a threat to my very life. And now we're looking at the news and seeing people yelling at volunteers on school boards, accusing them of child abuse for mandating students and teachers wear masks. Or even alleging that children wearing masks in schools contributes to human trafficking, since people couldn't see their faces. I'm brokenhearted over it, over and over and over again. And then the other day, to hear how lawmakers in Texas deprive women and others of reproductive justice and access to the full spectrum of health care, that is, their human and religious rights. So we feel brokenhearted. After more than a year of a global pandemic, this Rosh Hashanah we thought we would be able to bring everybody back together as we normally would. We've missed each other. We miss sitting in a sanctuary, seeing our friends, even if they're friends that we only see at Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, because for years they've been sitting in front of us. Or others who are new to Judaism or new to our congregation, and they were ready to extend a warm hand of welcome and of encounter and kibbutz, shmooze, and kvetch a little. Translation, chat, connect, and complain Jewishly. But this Delta variant and the potential of Lambda and Mu, they have led us to take what we consider to be necessary precautions so that we take care of one another. And we're feeling brokenhearted. I think we need to say it out loud. We're brokenhearted for our losses, for our missed opportunities, for our children who are missing so much, for the underlying fear and discomfort that we are feeling. Even tonight, when our reservations were full, how many felt like they just couldn't come and be with so many people for so long, despite the air filters, besides the masks. And here I see you. This is the only place I've been where I see masks over noses. Thank you. There's a teaching that I feel compelled to share with you. Rabbi Alan Liu writes about it. He writes about it in his book. And his book is titled, "This is Real and You Are Completely Unprepared." Best title ever. This is real and you are completely unprepared. The Days of Awe as a Journey of Transformation. He writes in his book, every year before the Days of Awe, the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Hasidic Judaism, held a competition to see who would blow the shofar for him on Rosh Hashanah. Now, if you wanted to blow the shofar for the Baal Shem Tov, not only did you have to blow the shofar like a virtuoso, you had to learn an elaborate system of kavanot, secret prayers that were said just before you blew the shofar. All the prospective shofar blowers practiced these kavanot for months, and they were difficult and they were complex. There was one fellow who wanted to blow the shofar for the Baal Shem Tov so badly that he had been practicing these kavanot for years. But when his time came to audition before the Baal Shem, he realized that nothing he had done prepared him adequately for the experience of standing before this great and holy man. And he froze. He couldn't remember one of the kavanot he had practiced for all of those years. He couldn't even remember what he was supposed to be doing at that time at all. He just stood before the Baal Shem in utter silence. And then when he realized how egregiously, how utterly he had failed this great test, his heart just broke into two, and he began to weep, sobbing loudly, his shoulders heaving, and his whole body racking as he wept. And the Baal Shem Tov looked at him and said, "All right, you're hired." "But I don't understand," the man said. "I failed the test completely. I couldn't even remember one single kavanah." So the Baal Shem explained it with the following parable. In the palace of the king, there are many secret chambers, and there are secret keys for each chamber, but one key, one master key, unlocks all of them. The king is the eternal one of the universe. The palace is the house of God. The secret chambers are the sphirot, the ascending spiritual realms that bring us closer and closer to God when we perform mitzvot, commandments, sacred Jewish responsibilities such as blowing the shofar with the proper intention. And the secret keys are the kavanot, but the master key, the axe, the one that can break through all of the doors, the key that opens every chamber and brings us directly into the presence of the king, that master key is the broken heart. Because it says in the Psalms, God is close to the brokenhearted. It tells me, friends, don't ignore our broken hearts. God is close to the brokenhearted. So we are not ever alone in our brokenness. Once we know we are experiencing this brokenness, well, how do we get out of it? How do we respond? One, I have a list of good therapists. Two, we go back to what we read in Nitzavim just last Shabbat. In Nitzavim we read, "Surely this teaching which I enjoin upon you this day, it's not too baffling for you. It's not beyond your reach. It's not up in the heavens. No, the thing is very close to you." And shortly after we hear this, Moses says, "I call heaven and earth to bear witness against you this day. Choose life, that you and your descendants may live." Choose life. Not like the bumper stickers. Choose life. We are capable of opening our broken hearts and choosing to live as God's partners with goodness, grace, presence, no matter how broken we might feel. In the very same chapter we read, "Even if you are scattered at the ends of the world, from there God will gather you and bring you back." So I learned from this that God can help us return to our truest, our most authentic selves. To me, it means that I have an opportunity to confront whatever it is that I am dealing with honestly, intentionally, and faithfully. There isn't any one without broken pieces in their lives, friends. Not a single one. The mystic scholar, Rabbi Isaac Luria, taught that when God created the world, there was a divine light that was being poured into vessels to hold that light. But the light was way too intense, and so the vessel shattered. And when it shattered, it sent those sparks of light all throughout creation. Whenever we engage in mitzvot, those intentional Jewish acts, we bring those sparks of light together again, little by little by little, in acts of tikkun. Tikkun means repair, but I see it as healing. Acts of tikkun, repair, and healing. Tikkun olam, the repair of the world, tells us that embedded in creation is a shattering that is all around us. Our task is to engage in tikkun, healing, repairing the fractures to build a beautiful life and a beautiful world. Friends, we have to grieve our losses, mark our transitions, and confess our fears. Recognize that this has been incredibly hard these last 2 years, and so sadly, it's not over yet. But I find comfort in the words of Reb Menachem Mendel of Kutsk. The Kutzker Rebbe taught there is nothing so whole as the broken heart. And it's in this spirit I share a prayer from a colleague in Los Angeles, Rabbi Naomi Levy. God, I need to know that you are with me, that you hear my cry. I long to feel your presence not just this day, but every day. When I am weak and in pain, I need to know that you are beside me. That in itself is often comfort enough. I do not pretend to know your ways, to know why this world you have created can be so beautiful, so magnificent, and yet so harsh, and so ugly, and so full of hate. The lot you have bestowed upon me is a heavy one, and I am angry. I want to know why. Why the innocent must suffer. Why life is so full of grief. There are times when I want to have nothing to do with you. When to think of you brings nothing but confusion and ambivalence. And there are times like this time when I seek to return to you, when I feel the emptiness that comes when I am far from you. Watch over me and my loved ones. Forgive me for all that I have not been. Help me to appreciate all that I have and to realize all that I can actually offer. Help me to find my way back to you so that I may never be alone. Amen. It is the eve of Rosh HaShanah. We have a new year with new opportunities and new beginnings, new outlooks, and new hopes. So let me end with another verse from the Psalms. We may weep throughout the night, but joy comes in the morning. I know we've been hurt, and we have this feeling of disappointments and sadness and even fear. Whether it's the pandemic or personal illness or any other ailment to our souls. But this is the time when we have to remind ourselves it's time to choose life, to choose resilience, to choose hope, to look at people with grace, to be generous with our resources, to keep those masks above the nose, to bring some sort of presence to other people who are feeling lonely, to bring some of those sparks together for tikkun. We are supposed to be repairers and healers. You don't need an MD. You just need to be a human being. It's been a difficult time. But joy comes in the morning and into the year. So let's begin.